What if a revolution promised equality, but slowly turned into something worse than what it replaced? Animal Farm by George Orwell. On a quiet English farm, life seems simple and stable. Animals work, survive, and follow routine without question. But beneath this ordinary world, something powerful is about to begin, a shift that starts as hope, grows into rebellion, and slowly transforms into control. This is not just a story about animals. It is a story about how systems change, and how ideals begin to break when power enters the picture. As the story unfolds, we don't just watch events happen, we begin to understand how easily change can turn into something unexpected. Before the idea of revolution takes shape, life on Manor Farm is controlled by one man, Mr. Jones. The animals live under routine, not freedom. They work every day, follow instructions, and accept their position without question. There is no real equality here, only structure and dependence. The humans take, the animals give. Yet even in this controlled environment, a quiet sense of dissatisfaction begins to grow. The animals may not fully understand it yet, but something about their life feels unfair. This quiet discomfort becomes the first step toward change. One night, the animals gather in the barn, called by Old Major, the oldest and most respected pig. He speaks calmly, but his words carry weight. He explains that their lives are not their own. Everything they produce is taken, and in return, they are given only enough to survive. For the first time, the animals begin to question what they have always accepted. Old Major leaves them with a simple idea. Their lives could be different. Ferent. And that thought is enough to begin change. Old Major's words do not fade when the meeting ends. Instead, they stay with the animals. They begin to see their lives differently, not as something fixed, but as something that could change. Hope slowly replaces silence. The idea of equality, though simple, begins to feel powerful. It is no longer just a thought. It becomes a shared belief. And once a belief is shared, it starts to unite. Without realizing it, the animals have already taken the first step toward rebellion. Not long after sharing his vision, Old Major dies. His voice disappears, but his ideas do not. The animals continue to think about what he said, and the idea of change begins to settle more deeply. Without a clear leader, the responsibility slowly shifts to the pigs, who are seen as more intelligent. They begin to organize, explain, and shape the ideas in their own way. At this point, nothing seems wrong. But quietly, something important is happening. The ones who explain Tor. The ones who explain the idea are also beginning to control it.
With Old Major gone, leadership does not disappear. It begins to take shape. 2 pigs, Snowball and Napoleon, step forward. They do not simply repeat Old Major's ideas. They begin to explain them, teach them, and turn them into something the animals can follow. The animals listen, but not all of them understand. So the pigs take on another role. They begin to teach, reading, writing, simple ideas, all meant to prepare the animals for the future they were promised. At this stage, it feels like progress, but knowledge is not being shared equally. And slowly, leadership is no longer just guidance. It is becoming control. The change does not come through planning. It comes through a moment of neglect. One day, Mr. Jones forgets to feed the animals. Hunger turns frustration into action. The animals break into the storage, and when Mr. Jones tries to stop them, something unexpected happens. They do not step back, they push forward. For the first time, the animals fight back, not out of strategy, but out of need. And just like that, the balance of power shifts. Mr. Jones is driven away. The farm is no longer his. It belongs to the animals now. With Mr. Jones gone, the farm falls silent for a moment. The animals look around. almost as if they cannot believe what they have done. For the first time, the farm is theirs. But freedom alone is not enough. It needs direction. The pigs step forward and begin to organize. The name Manor Farm is erased. In its place, a new name appears. Animal Farm. It feels like a fresh start. A place built on equality, shared work, and a new sense. But even in this moment of unity, the foundation is being shaped by a few. And what is written at the beginning will decide everything that follows. To give structure to their new society, the pigs introduce a set of rules. They call them the 7 Commandments. These rules are painted on the barn wall for every animal to see. 1. Whatever goes upon 2 legs is an enemy. 2. Whatever goes upon 4 legs or has wings is a friend. 3. No animal shall wear clothes. 4. No animal shall sleep in a bed. 5. No animal shall drink alcohol. 6. No animal shall kill any other animal. 7. All animals are equal. At first, the rules seem simple, clear, and fair. They promise a life completely different from before. At first, the commandments feel complete. They offer clarity, direction, and a sense of equality. But not every animal can read, and not every animal questions what is written. So while the rules are visible to all, their meaning is not equally understood. The pigs, being the most intelligent, begin to take responsibility for explaining them, and slowly, something subtle begins to change. The rules remain the same on the wall, but their meaning starts to depend on who is explaining them. Equality still exists in words, but in practice, it is already beginning to shift.
In the beginning, Animal Farm seems to thrive. The animals work together, and for the first time, they feel sense of ownership over what they produce. There is pride in their labor. No human control, no direct oppression. It feels like the dream is working. The harvest is successful. The animals believe they are finally living the life they were promised. But beneath this success, something remains unchanged. Not everyone is contributing in the same way, and not everyone is being questioned. The system appears equal, but it is already beginning to separate those who lead and those who follow. Among all the animals, Boxer, the horse, stands out. He is strong, hardworking, and deeply loyal. He believes in the new system without doubt. His personal motto becomes simple: I'll work harder. Whenever something goes wrong, he does not question the system. Instead, he blames himself for not working enough. To him, loyalty means sacrifice. And sacrifice means never stopping. But in his strength, there is also blindness. Because he trusts the system completely, he never stops to ask whether the system is treating him fairly. As Animal Farm grows, differences between Snowball, being intelligent among pigs, and Napoleon, who was authoritative and manipulative pig, become more visible. Snowball is full of ideas. He believes in progress, planning, and improving life for all animals. Napoleon is different. He speaks less, observes more, and prefers control over discussion. Irrigation. At first, their disagreements seem like normal leadership debates. But slowly, these differences turn into tension. Every meeting becomes a silent competition. Not just about ideas, but who should lead the future of the farm. And wealthy future of the farm. And without realizing it, the animals begin to take sides. As time passes, Snowball continues to speak openly in meetings. He focuses on plans, improvements, and ideas for the future of the farm. Napoleon, however, begins to step back from public discussions. He spends more time observing than speaking. He does not openly challenge Snowball. Instead, he listens carefully, watches closely, and waits. The animals do not notice it at first. But slowly, influence is no longer about who speaks the most. It is becoming about who understands control better. And while Snowball builds ideas in the open, Napoleon begins building influence in silence. Snowball introduces a bold new idea. He proposes building a windmill that will generate power and make life easier for all animals. To him, it represents progress and a better future. He speaks with passion, explaining how it will reduce labor and improve living conditions. Many animals begin to support the idea. It feels hopeful and forward-thinking. But Napoleon does not agree. He believes the windmill will distracts the animals from immediate survival. For the first time, their disagreement is no longer about small decisions. It is about the future of the entire farm. And neither side is willing to step back. As disagreement over the windmill grows, something changes quietly in the background. Napoleon stops debating in public. He no longer tries to win arguments through ideas. Instead, he begins acting in silence. The animals do not notice it immediately, but his presence becomes stronger in different ways. Support begins shifting, not through discussion, but through influence. And slowly, Snowball finds himself standing alone more often. What once felt like shared leadership is now turning into something else entirely. Control is no longer being discussed. It is being taken. One day, during an important meeting about the windmill, everything suddenly changes. Snowball is speaking, explaining his ideas with confidence. But before the discussion can continue, something unexpected happens. Napoleon gives a silent signal. In an instant, trained dogs rush into the room. Chaos breaks out. Snowball is chased out of the farm in seconds. There is no vote, no argument, no discussion. Just force. After this moment, Snowball is gone. And so is any illusion of shared leadership. From this point on, everything will be decided differently. After Snowball's removal, the animals are confused. No one fully understands what happened, but they trust that it was necessary. Soon after, Squealer begins to speak to them. He explains everything with confidence. He says Snowball was never a true leader. He says Napoleon acted only to protect the farm. The animals listen, unsure but convinced by his words. Because Squealer speaks clearly, and because he repeats things with certainty, the animals begin to accept his version of events. Little by little, truth becomes something that depends on who explains it. And most of the animals stop questioning altogether. As time passes, the commandments on the barn wall begin to change. At first, the animals do not notice. The writing looks slightly different, but no one remembers it clearly enough to question it. Whenever confusion arises, Squealer explains it away. He tells them they are mistaken. He says the rules have always been this way. Slowly, the animals begin to doubt their own memory. And one by one, they accept what they are told instead of what they remember. The idea of truth begins to shift. And the commandments, once fixed, are no longer certain. Boxer continues to work harder than anyone else. Even as conditions become more difficult, he never complains. Whenever something goes wrong, he blames himself. His belief never changes. If I work harder, everything will improve. But the truth is different. The harder he works, the more others depend on him. And the less they question the system. His strength is admired, but also quietly used. And Boxer does not see it. Because loyalty, in his mind, is always enough. Boxer continues to work harder than anyone else. The tasks do not reduce. They only increase. But Boxer does not question it. He believes, I will work harder. Even when he is exhausted or injured, he refuses to stop. The other animals admire him, but nothing changes for him. And slowly, loyalty stops being enough to protect him. One day, Boxer collapses while working. For the first time, he is unable to continue. The other animals are shocked. They have always seen him as unstoppable. But now, he is weak and exhausted. Very soon, a cart arrives to take him away. The pigs explain that he is being sent for medical treatment. The animals believe them. Boxer trusts them too. As he is taken away, he still repeats his belief. I will work harder. But this time, his words sound different. After Boxer is taken away, the animals believe he is receiving care. But later, they begin to hear the truth. Boxer was not sent for treatment. He was sold. When the animals realize this, they are devastated. The strongest among them, the one who worked without complaint, was never protected. Instead, his loyalty was used until he could no longer work. And then he was removed. By the time the truth is understood, it is already too late. The system they trusted has already moved on. As time passes, Animal Farm no longer feels like the place it once was. The animals still work, still follow routines, still believe they are free. But something essential has changed. The pigs now live differently from the others. They make decisions, give orders, and speak on behalf of everyone. The commandments are still on the wall, but they no longer feel meaningful. Even the idea of equality becomes unclear. The animals remember what they were promised. But they struggle to recognize what they now see. And slowly, the question begins to form. Has anything truly changed at all? In the end, the commandments change once again. And all that remains is one final truth. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. What began as a dream of freedom slowly transforms into something unrecognizable. The farm still stands. The animals still work. But the meaning of equality has completely changed. And no one can clearly remember when it happened. But Animal Farm was never just about animals. It was a reflection of something far deeper. A story written to mirror real history. The rise of power. The rewriting of truth. And the transformation of revolution into control. To truly understand its meaning, we need to look beyond the farm. And into the world it was meant to represent. The Russian Revolution. If you want to see how every character connects to real historical figures, and how the entire story becomes a political allegory, watch the next part. Because that is where the real meaning begins.